Quality yarns often come with that pesky hand wash only label. I know many knitters and crocheters avoid hand wash yarns, but they're really not that difficult to launder. Personally, I think machine washing anything you make is fraught with peril. Face it, a lot of things can go wrong in the washing machine. Are you willing to risk your hard work for a quick spin in the machine? Yeah. And the dryer, that's an entirely different level of peril where things stretch out, shrink up, and often disappear forever like a second sock. Plant fiber yarns usually fare well in a washing machine, especially cottons and linens. These fibers have a tendency to not be very color fast, so you have to take that into consideration with multicolored pieces or when laundering with other items. Yarns labeled as superwash have been treated to handle machine washing as well. Some of these yarns will designate dryer safe, but again, proceed at your own risk. Other yarns, while truly machine washable and dryable, will list hand wash and lay flat on the label, probably because they don't want to be sued by angry consumers when something bad goes down in the machine, and I don't blame them a bit. But you'll see a lot of the yarns we sell are going to be labeled, hand wash only. If you're gifting, these come in handy because a lot of times you're worried that your recipient just isn't going to take care of things. But Kid Trinkles has these nice little labels that you can sew in that say they're washable tags. They say hand wash, dry, flat. So that's always a backup, and you can hope that they'll read the tag. Hand washing really isn't a big deal. The hardest part, at least for me, is clearing all the dishes and yuck that accumulate in my sink when my guys have been in my kitchen. That probably takes longer than anything. But once I get my sink cleaned out, then it's easy going. But I love these mini basins from Soak. They're perfect for smaller items, and then I don't have to do the dishes before starting. Larger items like sweaters, you're probably going to need to use the sink, and if you have something super large like a blanket, consider using the tub. Bathtubs are good for that. So to start, you fill your sink, your tub, or your basin with warm but not hot water. Hot water can still cause some wools to felt. Some wools that really just love to felt up, just that slight amount of agitation, and really hot water, not a good mix. We're going to add a little wool wash. We're using Soak. I just like to dump it in there. I think Soak is easier to use. You can use like dishwashing soap, but it takes forever to get the bubbles, out. So the Soak is nice because it's a no rinse wool wash. That's usually what we recommend, is some sort of no rinse wool wash. Whatever you do though, this is important. Don't use Woolite. Believe it or not, Woolite, not for wool. I know, it's called Woolite. That's what you think. It's actually can damage natural fibers. Woolite is for synthetic wool, which is also known as acrylic, not the same thing as wool. So now that we have our Soak, our little bit of soap in the basin, we just stick it in. I've got a little too much water in mine. You might just let it soak for a few minutes first. We're going to be like the cooking on TV where they stick the turkey in the oven and pull it out 5 minutes later. So we're going to say this is soaked a little bit, and then just give it a little bit of a swish here and there. Turn it over. Now it's nice and wet. If you're using a sink, you can go and drain it. Since I'm in a basin, I'm just going to squeeze. You don't want to wring it. You can damage it. I'm just going to gently squeeze as much of this out as I can. Maybe I'll get quite a bit just by squeezing. Okay, so I've gently squeezed the extra out to say that we don't want to wring. I'm going to move this out of the way very carefully. Next, you're going to lay it flat on a towel to squeeze out the extra. When you do this, you're going to go through a lot of towels because it's amazing how much is in there. I usually use half the towels in my laundry room. Coconuts, however, has come up with this new super absorbent towel. It's probably like a chamois for your hand wash, and that way you don't have to use quite as many. And it's really big, so you'll be able to wash really large things with this towel, or dry many things. So we're going to lay it flat on this towel. See if it'll go that way. Oh, it will. I'm going to kind of reshape it a little bit just so we're not wrinkling it up. And then now we're going to roll it. Turn this around. Roll it in the towel. Again, I'm just giving it some pressure to help squeeze all the extra water out. Boy, this is super absorbent. This is the first time I've used one of these. These just came in and I am sold. Normally by now, my bath towel is just like sopping wet. And I have to do this a bunch of times. But look, it's not even coming through all those different layers. I'm sure when I roll, see what happens when I roll it back here. We'll investigate this new. Right here, it's slightly damp. It's a little more wet here. So it has definitely gotten out a lot of the water. So if you wanted to, you could probably move it back down here to the drier area and get out a little bit more. Because it's such a big towel. I'm not going to roll it all the way this time. Oh yeah, these are super nice. You need one of these. All right, it's still going to be kind of wet. You know, we're just trying to get the excess out to help speed it. And now we just lay it flat to dry. You can put a fan on it if you want to. I just find somewhere out of the way to let it dry. And then every now and then when I walk by and think about it, I'll just kind of flip it over. That way that backside gets dry as well. Once it's dry, you may need to block it again. Some pieces will need blocked, some won't. I doubt this piece is going to be, this piece will be fine. I don't think I'll need to reblock it. But if you go over to our regular blog on our website, we have a post on blocking for you. So we'll be sure and put a link on this post for you as well. So that way you can follow up with how to block. If all else fails and you or the recipient, there's just no way you're going to even do this, you can always take it to the dry cleaners. Personally, I find the chemicals that they use a little too harsh for fine fibers, but plenty of people do it, and it seems to work out okay for them. If you are going to go this route, I recommend using a reputable dry cleaner. If you're in our area, I have to give a plug for my cleaners up here at Dean's Cleaners. What I like about them is that it is family owned. I deal directly with the people who are going to be cleaning my clothes, and they're not sending it out to God only knows where. I've gone through that situation before, and that's where a lot of things really go badly. And so I'm sure that, you know, our local cleaners, that you probably may have one in your area too, that's what I would recommend, is find somebody where they're doing the cleaning on site and that you can trust. But even when you use good yarns, your best fibers will still pill slightly. The shorter fibers just work their way out, especially in areas that are worn a lot, like arms and sleeves especially. Prim makes this little wool comb that whisks away any fuzz, and I used one of those for years, and they're perfectly fine and small, but Coconuts has upped their game and come out with this sweater comb. Look, it looks like you're going to give somebody a clean shave, but this is going to work so much better than that plastic one. I really like it, and it's in a good portable shape. So, like I said, reinventing the wheel, the new sweater comb is going to usurp, I think, the old sweater comb. And then they also have this sweater brush, which is nice as well. The brush will just kind of refresh your knits, especially if you have something with a halo or a little bit of a fuzz, and it will bring the pills to the top, you know, so that way when you go to use your sweater comb, they're easier to find. It just really freshens everything up. I like the brush. And then you take your comb, again, looks like I'm gonna shave somebody, and it will whisk away all these pills. These work nice. Definitely say it works better than the old comb. So this is a win. Check it out. Another cool thing about the brush, and this is something that comes in handy here, you can also lint brush. It also does that. It'll whisk lint off of you. And actually, I find this a little easier than having to use a little sticky tape stuff all the time. Okay, this is going to just travel with me all the time. Wearing black in a yarn shop is usually not a great idea on our part. We're usually covered with fuzz. But yeah, I'm really digging this sweater comb. Well, these are my two new favorite tools, I think. The last thing I want to tell you about washing is that you always need to store your woolens clean. Wash them before you store them for this season. Oil and dirt off of you will attract moss. Clothes moss, they're not the same as the moss that you see flying around your porch light. You will not actually see them. I know I've had people bring something in, like, you've got moths. No, I don't. I haven't seen any. You're not going to see these at all. They're not a visible moth. The only way that you know you have moths is when it's too late. They've nibbled their way around all your hand nets or into your yarn. Lavender and cedar or other moth repellents are called repellents for a reason. They don't kill moths, and they just merely, serve as a deterrent. Even if you put something with moss in there, it's too late. It's still going to happen. This happened once to my mom. It's a long story. I'll tell you another time. But basically, everything in the cedar closet got eaten because something with moss went in. You can deter them also with mothballs, but I don't think anybody wants to stick around smelling like that. If you do find that moths have wiggled their way into your closet or into your stash, you need to take the infested item out immediately to avoid them spreading to everything else. You have two options at that point, and just to toss it, repair it, and just throwing it out there. We do not repair moth holes, so don't even bring your moth infested stuff in here. That is a hard no. If you are going to attempt to repair it or salvage it in some way, the first thing you need to do is kill the moths, and it takes a while because they've laid eggs all in here and they will hatch out. So you can't just clean it and think you're good. What you need to do to kill them, put them in the freezer. Just stick them in a bag, stick them in the freezer, leave it there for several months until you're sure that all the stuff is dead before you even try to proceed. Otherwise, you're just going to keep spreading around the moths.